Kate Rebel's realm. I'm Kate Rebel, and we are finally going into the legendaries. I am so excited for this. I've been waiting. There are so many legendaries that I want to read their stories, and I waited, and it's been agony, especially for some of the new ones. And we're starting with the Watchguard faction, which means Ingrid. It is yet another hot day, so I am probably going to take a lot of breaks, but you won't know because movie magic. Okay, let's get into it. We are starting off with Edith. She reminds me of Ponyta, but the Galarian one, I think it's a Galarian, where she's all rainbow and cute. That's Edith. Light's Crusade. May the prairie winds be at your back. Centurion prayer. Born not of nobility, Edith first stepped into this world as most centaurs have for years, thrust into the flames of strife that consume the fields of the Denso Prairie. For, long prior to Akkadia's dramatic collapse, a different kind of conflict was being waged across the land of Taya, and it was the Masoon Empire who sought to reign in its neighbors. Loyal to their beliefs and fellow kindred, the centaurs were considered backwards and weak by the Masoon, hindered by a system of rigid tribalism and outmoded thought. When a team of foreign missionaries came to visit the prairie, promising enlightenment and spiritual guidance, what followed in their wake was instead a full-scale imperial invasion. Edith, still a young foal, could only look on as her father was captured and sold into slavery, and a puppet leader was installed in her village. The imminent threat of the Masoon Empire divided tribes along factional fault lines, and the centaurs soon found themselves mirrored in deep internal conflict. Against her own convictions, Edith's mother instructed her to flee the prairie and seek refuge in the capital, where she could find the Watchguard, perhaps Taya's greatest pillar of hope. As she grew older, she became increasingly distressed by the civil war which divided her people. However, a new force was creeping over the horizon too, at first imperceptibly, but then violently thrown into focus. While unclear in its origin, there was no question that corrupted beings began appearing around Taya at an unprecedented scale. Encouraged by mentors and allies, Edith resolved to fight alongside the Watchguard, who dreamed of a Taya free from all forms of tyranny and stem the source of darkness. Years passed by, and under the guidance of the Watchguard, Edith blossomed into a fierce warrior who, cemented by her own stout figure and 4 powerful legs, proved to be exceptionally hardy in battle. For this, she was granted a set of gold sentinel armor and a massive bronze lance, armament said to be imbued with magic of giants now lost to time. Yet as darkness continued to spread abound, memories of her helpless plight as a foal and the final, despairing look in her mother's eyes began to haunt Edith and would shake her to her very depths. What might become of her beloved homeland and its people should they be consumed by darkness was a thought that she was unable to come to grips with. Unwilling to reopen the scars of her past, Edith dons her Watchguard raiment and fights for the freedom of Taya. But as this plague grows, she can't help but dream of a Denso Prairie shrouded in tranquility, united by solidarity, and liberated from the transgressions of all. For after all, in the end, who is it that we fight for? That was interesting. Like, she's so torn. It's better for her to be with the Watchguard, but what about her original family and her background, her history? Lucius. I must admit, I have read this, not of my own accord, but I have read this and I know the story, and it is epic and kind of sad, but also badass, so let's get into it. Lucius, corrupted by demonic power, constantly faces the choice between light and dark. Despite this relentless torment, Lucius holds fast to his will, unleashing deadly attacks. Whispers from the void. In the heartland, a figure roams, his eyes aflame with a madness born of shattered ideals, his mind consumed by revenge. Quartermaster's Tale. Often spotted traversing across Tai's vast expanse is a mercenary figure whose uncertain loyalty instills both curiosity and unease in the hearts of onlookers. For those bold enough to approach, it is said that upon locking eyes, one can witness madness smoldering in the depths of his soul, A fiery, unpredictable character, he is known as Lucius, Oblivion's Edge. As a former citizen of the Libero's kingdom, Lucius has been instilled with the values of his people from a young age, namely those of freedom, equality, justice, and compassion. He once took inspiration from his forebears and dreamt of being a liberating presence, delivering Taya's downtrodden from subjugation and misery. Armed with his crossbow and lofty ideals, he believed in the principles and truly felt the world was ripe for his saving. In time, however, Lucius would come to understand that the doctrines of his people could never fully prepare him for the harsh reality that was beyond the fortress walls. Perhaps it was the final moments before Acadia's fall that something stirred inside of Lucius. Seeing the Watchguard crumble before the tides, one by one their bodies splayed in the sand, he suddenly felt his world fracture. It was as if a belief had died, a childhood myth dispelled. For the first time, his ideals had been challenged and defeated, marred by an evil force seemingly shattered into nothing. Lucius could feel his head spin and his world go dark. They say man finds his purpose in moments of trial. Perhaps Lucius found his. The only thing for certain is that Lucius never returned to Libero's after that day. What happened afterwards is a matter of speculation. Some say Lucius fully resigned his faith, his brain infected by devils. Others say that in his moment of greatest despair, he turned to powers frowned upon by free society in an attempt to search for meaning. Today, Lucius is known to wander the vast expanse of the Taian realm, offering his services to those with enough courage to hire him. For, while Lucius persists in his cause, crusading against Tai's dark, destructive forces, some feel that his views have become problematic and his methods unsound, relying on a deeply self-destructive power to achieve his ends. A once noble mind corrupted by the violence of his environment, Lucius serves as a clear example of the human cost of war, a figure scarred so deeply he has lost sight of what it is to feel truly alive. This is crazy because for this hero, this story means a lot for his character build because his special attacks have to do with the demons in his mind and whether or not to use them in a self-destructive manner or to hold them in, but then they end up taking over and he explodes and then his main attack comes out and it's crazy. It's not all of them really pair up so well with their stories. This is one of them, and I respect that. Alistair. In a situation where maintaining order claimed innocent lives, Alistair clung to his faith and chose self-exile. His unshakable resolve empowers him to deal immense true damage that crushes the enemy's souls. The Meteor Sage. He knew the price of peace was too steep before any among us. Fallon, the Cosmic Guillotine. What would you do if the order you dedicated your life to became steeped in innocent blood to uphold its cause? For Alistair, the Meteor Sage, his decision to walk away from the Supreme Arbiters did not come lightly. Yet he'd grown far too tired of playing God amongst their ranks. When the Arbiters and Chaos Dominion splintered, Alistair instinctively took up his staff with the former, believing their methods against disorder to be the most grounded. Serving faithfully as the right hand of Praetus, the Sun Supreme, his wise counsel was often sought on the gravest of matters. But as time passed, Alistair began to see cracks in the facade of his once revered faction. The Arbiter's methods grew increasingly severe, and the prudent wizard was often at odds with his comrades. Just before he stepped away from the Order, Alistair and the contingency of magic casters were tasked with destroying a large fort harboring known members of the Chaos Dominion. Together, they would conduct a ritual channeling the power of the sun to roast the enemy alive from within. When the Meteor Sage discovered that innocent civilians were also among the fort's inhabitants, he refused to take part. Tragedy struck when his group was ambushed. With one less staff in the fight, the Arbiter forces were cut down ruthlessly. In retaliation, the Sun Supreme ordered the obliteration of the fort by brute force. a massacre ensued. Feeling responsible for the deaths and repulsed by the spilling of innocent blood, Alistair cloistered away from the Arbiters in absolute isolation. His departure left a great void in the Order. Now there are whispers that Fallon, the Cosmic Guillotine, has abandoned his post in the Arbiters to seek the aid of Alistair, no doubt to the Sun Supreme's chagrin. Time will tell if the disillusioned pair can raise a call to arms and restore balance in Taya without sacrificing the innocent. Wow. Some of them just feel like that's Watcher of Realms right there. Like, this man, and like his story and everything just felt it's the core. It's the core of the story. Constance stands strong on the front lines, thwarting enemies while channeling the power of the Holy Light to steadfastly bolster her allies with healing and inspiration. Hammer of the Holy Light. May the Holy Light shine through you and guide you safely through the shadows. Whether she's crushing the skulls of shrieking skeletons or leading a congregation in prayer, Constance, the Hammer of the Holy Light, carries out her duties with unshakable conviction. The daughter of a Holy Light priestess, Constance spent her entire life devoted to the faith. But rather than becoming a priestess like her mother, Constance chose to pick up the hammer. She felt the calling to fight for her faith. Nothing brings her more joy than service to the light, even among some of the Holy Light's most devout followers. Constance's fierce determination is remarkable. She wants nothing more than to chase away the shadows of evil, lighting a path for the just. When Acadia fell to the tides of darkness, Constance gathered a small contingent of knights and traveled to the beleaguered desert. The journey changed her, the tales of abominations and madness told by fleeing Acadians paled in comparison to what Constance and her companions encountered. The closer they traveled to Acadia, the more evil they encountered, monsters resembling mangled people, survivors whose minds had been twisted by an arcane corruption. Were it not for their faith in the Holy Light, Constance and her companions would have never reached the fallen city. While her companions provided aid to the survivors, Constance gazed at the ruins of Acadia. Among the sand and webs of corruption, she saw great evil and great opportunity. The Holy Light, Constance believed, had led her down this dark path for a reason. She was to serve as a beacon that would drive away the shadows and light the path for all who had suffered. Constance's faith was bolstered in the ruins of Acadia, but her crusade had only just begun. Even years after the fall of Acadia, Constance fights to preserve the light and to find a way to destroy the corruption shadowing her beloved Taya. Huzzah! I find that the Watchguard stories are just, they have so much love and passion in them, but they're very much about faith and unity and fight and survival and finding a reason to be a beacon of hope. It's just like this, it's a different feeling that I will never know as a human because I don't leave this apartment. Allora! Okay, so I really like Allora. I've been hearing a lot of people don't like her, but I think she's good. You know, I think the invisibility is very important. I have her and Hatsut out, and they both go invisible, and it comes in clutch with certain stages, so... The subtle arrow. This one is at war with herself. Pain washes through her like a river, but I believe her cause just. Elowyn, the meadow sage. I love Elowyn. Wait, Allora's sad? You guys are making her more sad by not liking her. The taking of life is no small matter, though it comes naturally to many of Taya's warriors. This is not the case for Allora. The subtle arrow. Schooled in the art of healing, it was many years before she picked up a bow. It's said that even the worst elven archers rarely miss their mark, but Allora cared very little for archery. She believed in the preservation of life, and once she discovered the Holy Light, her convictions were all more powerful. By no means are the elves an overtly violent people. They share a deep connection with the natural world. However, many considered Allora's pacifism to be impractical in a hostile land of Taya. Nevertheless, her talents as a healer were eventually lauded far and wide, and all who fell under her care were supremely grateful. But there often comes a time for when a healing hand is not enough to stem the flow of blood. Allora's life changed forever when a cunning band of goblins began leading raids on an outpost where she was assigned as a healer. The strongest elven warriors were sent to deal with a threat, but this was exactly what the clever goblins expected. While the elven rangers set off to the east, the vulnerable outpost was attacked from the west. The few remaining warriors were quickly cut down as Allora tended frantically to the wounded. When the last elven defender fell, she passed Allora her bow with a pleading look in her eyes. This was Allora's moment. Putting pacifism aside, Allora channeled the holy light in a new direction, using it to guide her arrows into the hearts of the invaders. She tended the wounded between volleys, steeling herself as she defied her core beliefs. For 2 days and nights, she repelled the goblins until the rangers returned. When the dust settled, the elves looked upon the healer in a new light. They dubbed her the Subtle Arrow. While many believed she would return to her pacifist ways, Allora realized that she could no longer abstain from the fight. Her talent with a bow was one she could not ignore, and with it, she would defend her people. But it's kind of funny that people don't like her, and she's like, archery's my second. She's like, I actually would have preferred to be a healer. And everyone's probably sitting here like, why didn't you just be a healer then? So thank you so much for coming and watching the legendary heroes of the Watchguard faction. I had so much fun telling you these stories, and until next time, I'm Kate Rebel. This is Kate Rebel's Realm, and I will see you next time. The tie-in realm. Dump 'em out for Alistair.